Hello, it's 7:14 on Byte Into It on Triple R. You're with Joe and Vanessa. It's lovely to have you with us this evening. It is also lovely to have a couple of gentlemen in the studio with us tonight. We've just been joined by Trevor Townsend, who's Managing Director of Startupbootcamp Melbourne. Hey, Trevor.
Hey, Vanessa. Hi, Joe. Thanks for having us on.
Great to have you here. We've also got Jonathan Knight, the CEO and co-founder of Uprise Energy. Hey, Jonathan.
Hi there.
Great to have you here. Now, the reason we've got you both in together is that you are both involved in the recent round of Startup Bootcamp in Melbourne. Trevor, for all of our listeners who don't yet know what that is, could you explain a little bit about the whole Startup Bootcamp global team?
Sure, yeah. So Startup Bootcamp's a global innovation network, and our mission is to help startup founders scale their business, and we do that by connecting them with mentors, corporate partners, people they can do business with, and investors. And we do this globally, so we run 21 programs around the world across 14 cities. And this company's been going since 2010, and we've helped over 600 startups during that time.
That's fantastic. So in this particular round, you're partnering with Energy Australia and you're supporting 10 startups who've come to Melbourne from around the world to participate in our first Global Accelerator program in Melbourne with you guys. So tell us a little bit about what your process was for determining the final startups to invite to participate in this program with over 450 applications. How did you cope?
Well, it was a lot of fun, actually. So we start by getting the themes that we're going to recruit the startups on. So our partners, Energy Australia and also Spotless and the Victorian Government, we workshop the themes with them. And for the themes for this particular cohort of startups that we were looking for for three things in particular: better energy usage, grid independence, and advanced technologies as it can be applied to the energy sector. So with those three themes, we went out and we use like bots and so forth, and we go out and we contacted about 2,000 startups via email, and we have email conversations with the startups. And through that, we get a list of startups who are interested in meeting with us. We then go on and do a global tour. We visited 17 cities around the world. In each of those cities, we met at least 10 startups, and we interviewed those startups. What we do, we call it a fast track, and in the fast track, we bring local mentors together and with the startups in that various market, and that's where we met Jonathan in San Diego, for example. And we have a good conversation over a day, and through that, we work out who are the people that we can help the best, who are the people that are interested in doing something with us. And from that, we get a top 20 list. From the top 20 list, they all come to Melbourne at their own expense.
Wow.
And they spend 3 days here, and we bring about 100 mentors together in that. It's quite an exhausting 3-day exercise. And at the end of that, then we're able to select the top 10 startups into the program.
That's quite the pressure cooker you're describing there.
So, Jonathan, when did you first hear about the opportunity to pitch to Startup Bootcamp?
It was probably, September or October of last year. As a startup founder, I'm constantly looking for opportunities to grow the business. And there's quite a few, programs like this. And I think it was actually somebody from the local media in San Diego that brought this to our attention. We were involved with an incubator in San Diego, and we had a connection with some people in the local media, and he brought the opportunity to me, and so I went down and met the guys when they came through San Diego, and I think it was October.
I guess you have to be pretty serious to throw down some money before they've committed to you and actually suss out the whole experience. Was that a bit of a scary prospect to fly around the world? It's quite expensive to get to Australia sometimes.
Yeah, well, it is halfway around the world. It's not a small trip, but our business already had some pretty good traction in Southeast Asia, and we were getting some interest out of Australia. And so when this opportunity came up, it kind of made sense to come down to Australia and put some boots on the ground and see what the local market was all about. And I'm really glad I did. When I came down, the experience going through the selection days, getting to meet all of the mentors and the sponsors and the team behind Startup Bootcamp convinced me that it would be a good event to participate in if we were selected, and we were.
We're definitely going to get more into the details of your business in a moment. But before we get there, Trevor, were there many surprises in the range of ideas being pitched to you? Because energy, it could go anywhere, smart energy.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, smart energy is fascinating, and what we're seeing is, particularly with the Internet of Things, IoT, being deployed into the networks, we're now seeing the digitisation of energy. And what that's causing is a whole lot of new different business models, different ways of approaching energy, different ways of looking at energy efficiency, utilisation, creating all these things like off-grid solutions, microgrid solutions, allowing people in communities to share energy, for example, trade it amongst themselves. So the energy sector used to be a whole lot about big, hard tech. It used to be, a lot about machines and so forth. Now it's really a combination of both the hardware and the software. And, when Jonathan explains his solution later, one of the really interesting things about Uprise was the fascinating combination of both hardware and the design there, but also the software that he put into the solution, which was just, well-breaking and revolutionary. So, we look for technologies which are disruptive, can change the world, hopefully for the better. We saw lots of great tech. We saw lots of great tech around batteries in different ways. Saw a lot of tech around electric vehicle infrastructure. Unfortunately, Australia really lags behind in electric vehicles, which is a big shame. And, we couldn't really help those companies, but hopefully, going forward in the next couple of years, Australia may start to catch up a little bit with the, greener and cleaner vehicle fleets.
So, Jonathan, enough suspense. What is Uprise Energy all about?
Well, we're a startup. We're building a new class of wind turbine. The wind turbine that we've designed, it fits in a standard 6-meter or 20-foot shipping container. You can tow it with an ordinary vehicle, and when you arrive on site, one person can set the whole machine up in 1 hour's time. But beyond the portability, we've done a handful of innovative and unique things in order to improve the machine's performance, especially in the lower wind speeds that are commonly found around the world. So we were striving to create a clean energy or a renewable energy option for people that lived at the grid's edge and beyond. And presently, the predominant power source in those regions is diesel generators, and which are, beyond the environmental impact, they're also pretty expensive to run. So and they're reliant on a fossil fuel, which isn't always available. So we were very solution-minded in developing this product, we had certain metrics that we wanted to hit when we were doing the design, and we were successful in doing so. And so that's what gave us the encouragement to move forward with the project and bring it to life.
That's great.
So how is Uprise planning to improve on current wind turbine energy solutions?
Yeah, well, so traditional wind turbines rely on very strong wind in order to make power, and which is fine if you have those types of conditions, but the reality is strong wind is rarely found around the world. And so we did an awful lot to improve the performance at lower wind speeds. And traditional wind turbines have a fixed installation. So meaning that you put a concrete foundation in and you put a permanent mast up, and where you put the machine is where it lives for the entirety of its life. And so when you make that type of commitment to a single location, you want to be very sure that you're picking a good spot. And so the process of installing a traditional wind turbine takes upwards of 2 years in order from the time that you say, I want it, till the time that you're actually making power. Once you go through the wind studies to make sure that you have appropriate wind conditions to make power. You get the permits and the connections and so forth. It's quite a lengthy process. Our machine, on the other hand, as I just said a minute ago, you wheel it in, you set it up in an hour, and it makes power in low wind speeds. So
I had no idea that the planning process could take that long. It's pretty interesting to hear.
yeah, well, the wind study itself usually lasts 18 months.
Right. Wow. And then there's all the community consultation about locations. I guess you've got some advantages there too, like disrupting that process and just going, let's just try it. We can see if we like it or not.
Yeah, that is definitely unique. And it puts us into a little bit of a gray area because we are a portable generator. And in most areas, you don't need a permit to run a portable generator. But as far as I know, we're the first portable generator that's 20 meters tall with a 7-meter rotor diameter, and so there's going to be certain councils that will,
I've just suddenly been thinking there's going to be a lot of interest from music festivals who want to go greener.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And do you fall into a lot of the same issues that cranes fall into in terms of temporary structures and?
Well, potentially. We're really going after rural environments where
Right.
there is plenty of space. This is not an urban machine, so it's not something that you're going to find in people's backyards.
We're not going to see it at the drain raves anytime soon, Joe. So. But
We may. I have had a discussion with one of the councils here, one of the large councils, and who are trying to move towards zero emissions, and they're very interested in the Uprise wind turbine. To be able to run festivals without running generators and so forth. So I think there is applicability in those areas.
It's brilliant. So Trevor, there are a lot of surprises in Jonathan's company where there's things that we don't know about solutions that could be out there. Did you find a lot of surprises in the ideas being pitched?
Oh yeah, I mean, I learned a lot in traveling around the world, listening to all these startup founders. I mean, the most interesting thing is actually meeting the founders, meeting people like Jonathan when you're on the road, and hearing their passion for their projects or their products, and how they're trying to change things. But we saw again lots of fascinating technologies across blockchain in terms of energy trading, energy sharing, and so forth. We saw lots of energy monitoring solutions, and a little bit of advice to any startups out there: don't start another energy monitoring company.
So it's the market saturated a little, is it?
Oh yeah,
People trying to get that done.
Yes, very, very, very saturated, and I think quite a long way. But there's a lot to do. We're seeing trends in areas of reinforcing the current grid. So there's a lot of fragility in the grid, especially since a lot of renewables have come into play. And people who've got solutions and technologies that can help stabilise the grid or take data off the grid, and so they understand it more, understand forecasting around renewables and how they behave in different sun and wind conditions. There's lots of good solutions that we're seeing in those areas, for example. Lots of good new battery tech, getting away from the rare earth chemicals and
See, that's
and all
starting
of
to be
that.
exciting because too many of the battery solutions we see, it's like, great, it's a better battery, but the battery itself is not amazing for the environment.
Yeah, correct. And I think when I was with Jonathan in San Diego, we saw some bulletproof batteries, which were really interesting.
Is there a
as
big
well.
market for that as well? How's the research going on that?
Quite niche, I believe, but it was cool.
I just can't wait for that to be a plot device in a film that we'll go and see. A little battery pack in the breast pocket instead of the Bible, perhaps.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's like my life was saved by my mobile phone.
We are beginning to drift, and it's such an interesting topic. So we're going to come back after a break with more from Trevor Townsend from Startupbootcamp and more from Jonathan Knight from Uprise Energy about smart energy solutions. But 7:33 on Triple R, you're with Byte Into It with Joe and Vanessa, and we're in the middle of a conversation with Trevor Townsend, who's the Managing Director of Startup Bootcamp Melbourne, and Jonathan Knight, who's the CEO and co-founder of Uprise Energy, a wind turbine solution-focused company. Now, we have already spoken a bit about the boot camp that's going on, but you are part of a global network of startup bootcamp accelerators based in cities around the world. They're focused on areas including fintech, digital health, smart cities, Internet of Things, and cybersecurity. And now we've got smart energy. So I wondered, Trevor, has the organisation been refining the bootcamp model based on those experiences in different locations?
Yes, absolutely. We run now 20 odd programs a year, and each program has about 70 workshops in it. And after every workshop, we get the startups to review the workshop, and then we iterate around. So we do this build, measure, learn, the same as we're asking startups to do. But we're able to iterate our content 20 times a year. Obviously, we're not changing it all the time, but we can improve it because we're doing it so often in different locations. And in each location, we do tailor it depending on the cohort that we have with us, the 10 startups, because they may be in different stages or so. But we know what works. Everything, right down to when we're having like selection days. Do the teams move around the tables, or do the mentors move around the tables, right? Just simple things like that, If the mentors move around the tables, they go missing. Right? So you keep them still and you get the startups to move.
I think that's a learning we can all take from this.
Yeah. So little learnings like that for everything we do allows us to execute quite a high quality program. I think beyond that though, it's when we're connecting the ecosystems on particular topics, like, we have something like, I think now about 11 fintech programs around the world. We have smart transport and energy in Berlin connected to here, connected to the IoT programs. So when someone from a Melbourne program turns up in Barcelona or a city like that where we have another program, they're immediately able to connect to mentors and people who are interested in that sort of technology and people who can help them get contacts to talk to the right sort of customers in the marketplace. And that really helps them because, we've got offices now in so many cities in the world, and every business these days needs to be globally focused. You really need to be looking at trying to scale globally. So we provide that kind of network for the startups to move into.
Do you see, Jonathan, do you see the benefits of being part of a themed startup bootcamp really coming through in your experience?
Without a doubt, yeah. I think I mentioned earlier that I was a part of an incubator back in San Diego, which it's a tech incubator. And I have nothing but good to say about those guys, but it was a very diverse group. And we were one of the only, or maybe the only, energy-focused company. So the experience of coming into Startup Bootcamp Energy program, where I'm surrounded by 9 other energy companies, and we're all on the same schedule, and we're all working towards a common goal. I found a lot of benefit in being in that kind of environment.
And when you're running these programs, you're bringing a lot of mentors, and it sounds like you've got a lot of crossovers with government and business as well. And yet these teams have been sourced from around the world. Are they getting a global enough view of, experience shared, or, do the regional issues bleed in? How do you manage for that?
So I think all the startups bring their global perspective. We have 8 countries represented, so they know a lot about different markets. But a lot of them are here to learn about how a market going through disruption operates. So the energy market here is having a lot of disruption, both, we're seeing it with grid instability, blackouts and things like that. We're seeing it with price shock. We're seeing it with deferred investment decisions and things of that nature. So it's really good experience for the startups to be in a market where there is so much change and turmoil, because then they can look to find how do they make a niche in those markets, because any market that's in turmoil is ripe for disruption, and that's where startups need to come in. In stable, kind of well-ordered markets, very hard for a startup to get their nose in and to get going.
What are the benefits for Melbourne for being a startup bootcamp hub?
Oh, well, so we're part funded by the Victorian Government by Launch Vic, and it's about building the startup community here in Melbourne. And I think, smart energy has a home in Melbourne, and we're passionate about building smart energy. So Australia is quite passionate about renewables, and we have the highest number of PV households, solar installed around, in Victoria. So that shows that I think the consumers are way beyond where the government are really in terms of wanting a cleaner, more sustainable future. So I think we can build the tech around that, because that's only kind of like stage 1 or stage 0.5 of moving to a clean energy future, right? It's about using less, knowing what you're using and how you're using it, looking at various different ways to save energy, as well as different ways to produce energy like Uprise are doing. So it's a combination of usage and production, but then also using smart technology across, between those things and different business models, so that it's inclusive and affordable for everybody.
Great. So, Jonathan, you've spoken a bit about going through this process of other energy-themed startups. I wonder if you could tell us anything that excites you about some of the other teams involved in the accelerator.
Yeah, absolutely. I often reflect on how there's 10 companies that are all energy focused, and there's really very little, if any, overlap between one company and another. But as a collective group, we add on to each other's values. And so one of the attractions that I had in joining the Startup Bootcamp was we were looking at energy storage, using flywheels for energy storage, and there happens to be a innovative company in the cohort, Oxto Energy, that is bringing to market a very neat flywheel product. And so I was excited about being able to work with him. Another thing that is important for our technology is to be able to broker the power that we generate at the grid's edge. And so I've looked at blockchain as being a tool that could be used in order to facilitate those peer-to-peer transactions. And again, there is WePower that's in the cohort, who they are a blockchain energy trading company. So I was really excited about working with those companies, but since I've been involved, there's a handful of other companies that I've gotten to know what they do and where their value is, and I'm looking to partner with a couple of the other companies in the group as well. So there's been a lot of added value of being around all of these innovative startups. It's
really revolutionary to me to hear about fledgling companies already talking about partnering and the rich collaboration that's happening in this environment. That's kind of exciting to me, aside from the green slant of all these companies as well. That's really cool.
We think they could all do business with each other. We have to kind of stop them and say, go out and talk to other customers. These are too easy for you to talk to, and they have to push them out the door and make sure that they talk to other end customers.
Now, Trevor, there's a startup demo day coming up. What can people expect to experience at this?
Well, I think the demo day is really the culmination of 3 months hard work for the startups, and the whole purpose of demo day is twofold. Really, it's a celebration of actually finishing the program, and I think that's for the startups and us running it. It's quite tiring. I think one of the biggest complaints we get is, I just don't have enough time. So one thing is a celebration, but really most of the startups are in these sort of programs to accelerate both their business contacts and also their fundraising. So all the startups, bar one or two who have already done some fundraising, will be looking to get their seed round off and running just directly after demo day. So we'll have an investor session there. But for anyone who comes along, they get to meet the 10 startups, hear them pitch, and then we'll have a networking session where they can really find out a little bit more about their technology or their business model. And they're all looking for partnerships. Some of them will be looking for employees here in Melbourne as they build their business out here, or the Australian part of their operation. And of course, some will be looking for investors. And we've got nearly 400 people turning up on demo day. Well, we could do a couple of free tickets if anyone wants to email us at Energy Aus, Energy Aus, at startupbootcamp.org. If you email that email address, energyaus@startupbootcamp.org, we could get you along on Friday.
Thanks, Trevor. That's a very generous offer. So, Jonathan, what would be a good outcome for Uprise Energy from the demo day?
Well, as a startup that's building a product, I came to Australia with 3 goals. One was to add customers to our pipeline, to learn about strategic partnerships for both product representation and potential manufacturing partners in the region. But as a startup that has been largely self-funded to date, that has good traction, we're looking for a good investor to join the team that shares our vision and would allow us to scale the business faster and accelerate our path to market.
Well, we wish you all the best of that, and good luck to all the other startups as well. It's been wonderful hearing about the journey tonight, so thanks for sharing that with us.
Great.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Great. We've just been speaking to Trevor Townsend from Startup Bootcamp Melbourne and Jonathan Knight from Uprise Energy, if you want to go Google them and find out a little bit more.